All right, everyone, welcome to the West Coast Preps podcast. We have another edition, and today we have our new travel softball coach, Meghan Bradbury, is here today to talk with me about her career and why we're starting West Coast Preps travel softball. Welcome.
Thank you, Greg. Happy to talk with you.
Of course. So we'll just get right into it, and we'll kind of start with your playing career because obviously you had a great playing career. So just kind of go into your playing career and why you love softball as well.
hmm Yeah, so when I was in fourth grade, I started playing softball. I was scared I was going to get hit by the ball. Growing up, I played all sports, basketball, volleyball, softball, soccer. And it wasn't until high school where I kind of started specializing in softball. I saw the potential that I had to make it to the next level. I thought I maybe could have played soccer in college too, but that was too much running. So I chose to stick with softball, and that was a tough bout to get through because the recruiting roller coaster was really tough. Back in the days when I was getting recruited, girls in eighth grade were verbaling to colleges. So I was a junior in high school, and eighth graders were committing before me. So I like to call myself a late bloomer because I just kept working. I kept going out with my dad, going to the field, practicing after practices, doing extra hitting, doing extra reps. And so when I was playing travel ball, I played for three local teams, actually all based out of Pleasant Hill and Concord. It was the Lady Hawks. They're kind of an all-star team, you would say. And then I played for KG Hitters, which the owners of that are now the heads of Universal Fast Pitch. And then I played for the Bears, which were based out of Concord. And that head coach was Kristen Morley. She was on the 2001 national team at Cal. And she kind of changed my perspective on softball. And I saw that what female coaches can do for softball players. She was a mentor. She reignited my passion to play in college, made the game fun. And so she was really kind of helping me strive for that next level. And so I played for the Bears for my junior to senior year through high school, and then I got recruited. Do you want me to go into my recruiting journey, Greg?
Yeah, talk about the recruiting journey and just
Okay.
the highs and lows of that.
Okay. Yeah, so it was like I said before, it was a roller coaster. I started doing high level softball, PGF softball about my freshman, sophomore year of high school. Traveled to Southern California about every weekend, go to 50 college camps probably throughout my whole time getting recruited. And I got recruited initially by the University of Maryland. I verbaled there the summer of my junior year. I fell in love with it. I went on an unofficial visit. The coaches offered me a 50% scholarship, but it was out of state and it was all the way on the East Coast. So, but I was just happy to be given the opportunity to play at the next level. Then there's a coaching change. Like all college sports, if the team's not winning, right, they bring in a new coach to see if they would change the program around. So I kind of got ghosted by the new coach for about 2 months. I didn't know if my verbal was standing. And then finally she got a hold of me and she said, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. We're not honoring your verbal. And that was debilitating because the roller coaster was so hard up until then. And I was going into my senior year of high school, which is typically pretty late back in that day, since eighth graders were getting recruited. So I was a little depleted. My parents weren't, so they kind of took over the emailing because emailing is a very big part. And my mom kind of was like, nope, you're going to play in college. We have to send these emails. So she took it upon herself. I got interest from Rutgers, from Purdue. And then I was kind of playing a tournament down in Sunnyvale, and UC Davis was there. I had been communicating with them, and right when they walked up, I hit a home run over the right field fence, and all four coaches were there. So it kind of was destiny, I would say, because I went to multiple UC Davis camps growing up throughout my time in high school. I maybe went to 5 or 6. I really wanted to go there, but they had a different coach when I went to the camps. She only wanted lefty slappers. She wanted speedy people. I wasn't that. I was a power hitter, righty infielder. And so UC Davis had just gotten a new coach. And I was actually her first recruit. So it was kind of cool. So I hit a home run over the right field fence. All four coaches were there watching me. They asked if I could play catcher. I was like, yes, I'll play anything as long as you give me the opportunity. Um, and then I went on an unofficial visit the very next day. I skipped school. I went up with my travel ball coach because my parents couldn't go. And then the process just started rolling. So it was perfect because I was 45 minutes away from home. My parents got to see every game rather than 5 hours on a plane on the other side of the country. So um, the dominoes fell. It kind of lined up perfectly, and I was very happy with the education and the softball experience I had at UC Davis.
I think a lot of kids are starting to understand more like what kind of commitment it takes to play college sports and college softball, especially at a Division I level and at a high level. So kind of talk about the experience of once you got to UC Davis and what that commitment is like for you and what it was like back then.
Yeah, so going into my freshman year, of course, every college athlete and even every college freshman, there's barriers to entry. Essentially, you're moving away from home. You're trying to be independent. You got to wake up and go to class. You have to make sure that you feed yourself, go to the dining common, all of that. So that first semester at UC Davis was really challenging because I had never lived away from home. And then I was joining a Division I program where there were conditioning tests, 6 a.m. weights, fall ball schedule, practices. There was the social life of wanting to meet new people. So that first semester, freshman year, it was challenging, but it was also like the best semester. And so typically they like to, at Davis, they typically said whatever GPA you got in high school, mark it down a whole point. So I was above a 3.5 my whole time at Salesian, and I think I got a 2.5 at Davis that first semester. The academics were challenging, but I also kind of credit it to just all of the variables happening freshman year. But throughout my 4 years, the courses, I like to call myself, I like to learn. That's why I'm a teacher and I'm getting my master's degree right now. So I really appreciated the academics of Davis. So eventually I graduated with a degree in human development and minors in psychology and American studies. I like to challenge myself in that aspect, but also just softball wise, it was hard. There was conditioning tests every year, coming back from summer. And then there was also conditioning tests coming back from Christmas break. So thankfully, we didn't have to go back early in the summer. We got all summers off because our season didn't start till February. But my mind for 4 years was obsessed with pleasing my coaches and passing the conditioning test. It kind of mentally messed me up a little bit. But it's just a people pleaser, right? They're the people deciding who goes on the field, who they make up the lineup decisions, right? So you want to be people pleasers towards them. But my time at Davis was awesome. I love my coaches. I still have great relationships with them. Coach Thorpe is the head coach there. Coach Carbonado, she's actually the head coach at Santa Clara right now. She was the assistant coach. Coach Amy Kleiss, she's still at Davis. And then throughout my time, my 4 years, I had Coach Christina Byrne. She was actually the associate head coach at UC San Diego. So lots of connections all over California. And the coaching staff was just awesome. But definitely the hardest 4 years of my life, both mentally and physically, but also the most rewarding.
After those 4 years, you get into coaching pretty quickly. What was the kind of process of getting into coaching? Did you always know from the beginning that you wanted to get into coaching? Just kind of talk to me how that process got going.
Yeah. So growing up throughout the summers, especially through college and late high school, I volunteered at a summer sports camp. So I'd always been around kids. I grew up going to that camp and then I became a coach, and I'd always enjoyed coaching kids. And then when I was in college, I was an assistant coach for the Bears with Kristen Morley. I was an assistant coach with her during one of her final seasons. She retired, and the Bears organization kind of is no longer around because she was the head of that. But right after college, so I had some coaching experience. I knew that I liked working with kids, especially older kids. Right after college, though, I was kind of worn out. I wanted to see if there was life after softball, if I could do something that didn't involve sports. Growing up, I was the athlete. I played with the boys at recess. The boys were my best friend. I have two older brothers, so I wanted to be just like them. So sports were my world, and I wanted to see if I had other passions. So after college, I actually got an internship at Nickelodeon Animation Studios. I was a community efforts intern. So I did philanthropy for the studio, and I got to work with community organizations and do all of that. And it was an awesome experience, but it was in Southern California, away from home. And I don't, sorry to SoCal fans, but I don't like Southern California. It's too much concrete, not enough trees, too much traffic. So just the commute, the job was awesome, the internship was awesome, but just it wasn't what I was expecting, right? I went from being an athlete and having that identity all 4 years of college and my whole life being a softball player to not having softball as an identity. So I kind of went through some mental stuff as well of trying to find who I am. And so after experiencing that, which was valuable experience, I told my parents, no, I don't want to stay down here. I'll move back up north. And then within a couple weeks, I got my first clients. So I do individual lessons, and I signed up for the app Coach Up, and got my first couple of clients. And then I worked with them for a few months, and then opportunities just started lining up. So my first head coaching gig was a 10U team in Alameda. Super awesome, great people, good organization, the Alameda Blaze. I was with them for about 2.5 years, but right at that time was the pandemic too. So softball was different. I was leading Zoom workouts. I had the girls at their houses. They were hitting while I was watching them on Zoom. So it was just weird. But I wanted to connect with as many people as possible. And then right around that time, I got included and involved with Salesian, which lined up the head coaching job. And then, actually, before Salesian, sorry, go back. During the pandemic as well, I also connected through mutual people the opportunity to be the volunteer assistant coach at San Francisco State. But then I was only coaching for 3 months, and then the pandemic hit. So that was short-lived. So I started in Alameda. I went to San Francisco State, was the volunteer assistant there. And then Salesian, that very next August, they hired me to be a teacher and also the head softball coach. And then I made a move to a PGF level team where I coached 16U with two very awesome coaches that I learned a lot from, Danny Parajon and Steve Ortiz. Steve is actually going to be my assistant. We'll be leading it together though. I've learned so much from him and Danny, and just how to coach the girls, how to approach them. We work really well together. So I worked with them for 2 years. That team kind of fell apart, unfortunately, and then I joined a 14U team in the same organization. So finding where the opportunities lie, right? Connecting as much as I can and networking as much as I can. And it all started from that summer, wanting to see if I could survive without softball, when I really couldn't, because it was my identity. I've always loved coaching kids, coaching students, coaching athletes. And so that's where my future lies, I definitely think.
And then just kind of take me through what it was like going back to Salesian and now being the head coach there, and just how the experience has been coaching at Salesian, and just the memories that you've created there throughout your years there.
Yeah, so I'm a Salesian alum. I actually graduated there in 2015. Played 3 varsity sports there. I got the Stan Peters Scholar Athlete Award, so for the female of my graduating class. And so Salesian always just felt like home. When I was in college, I would go back there and do all of my weight training because I had a gym. I would go to the track and see the athletic director. I'd do conditioning with the football team. So I'd always stay connected. I always felt like that was always home. So when I got when I sat down with the principal, she was actually my AP US history teacher when I was in high school. When I sat down with her, it just felt right. And mind you, it was the pandemic. I was looking for a job. Um, it was a safe option, but the opportunities that it offered for my future, I think I'm seeing it clearly now. Because being a teacher in a private school, you don't need to have a credential right away. So you don't need a teaching credential. So they gave me the opportunity. They said, hey, we'll give you about 4 years to test this out. If you like teaching, then we suggest maybe you pursue your teaching credential. So I really liked that they didn't push me to get my credential. But then that first year, I taught 3 classes. I took over the program, but it was the pandemic. So the seasons were weird. There wasn't a championship season. They didn't give all league awards. We played 12 games. Like the first season was kind of a wash. But the one thing I noticed is the girls wanted a leader. They wanted someone to bring the program back to what it was. And when I was at Salesian, we had won 2 back-to-back NCS championships. We went to the NCS championship 3 years in a row. So that's all I really knew for high school sports. So taking over the program was pretty personal, and I was really happy to do it. And so we've just had so many good athletes come through the program, but it's just the right type of coaching, right? Getting all the girls to buy in, to make them feel special, to get them gear, to make field improvements, to fundraise. We've fundraised over $10,000 each year to help them get gear, to do team bonding activities, we put in infield lights so we could do infield practice when it gets dark in the fall, or open fields. Let me rephrase. And it allows just all the improvements and all the girls buying into kind of my thoughts about where the program should be headed, getting back to the championship mindset, because Salesian has been very well known for their basketball programs, both boys and girls. I mean, they just went to the Open Division state championship this past year for the boys. So I've been talking to Coach Mellis and talking to Coach Nightingale, the football coach, and getting their advice on how I should best run the program, right? So I'm kind of reaching out to the successful people ahead of me. And just being back at Salesian has just been awesome. Like I said before, it's a home community. It always felt like home. All of my colleagues that I work with were my teachers. So that was a weird thing, going from calling them Mrs. Blank, Mr. Blank to a first name basis. But it's been awesome taking over the program. We've progressed each year. The first year we made it to NCS playoffs. The second year we made it to the semifinals. This third year, I'm saying third year because the pandemic year didn't count. This third year we won league, and we won the league tournament, and we were 1 out away from making the NCS championship. So each year getting more athletes to come to the school, to invest in the school, to believe in Salesian and believe in the program, I think has really helped. And yeah, we're growing each year, getting better each year, and it's kind of exciting to see it keep building.
And now we kind of get into West Coast Preps travel softball, and just kind of why you wanted to join West Coast Preps. I'll just say kind of why West Coast Preps wants to get into it, and why we want to get into it with you. Obviously, your playing career, the experience that you have in coaching as well. But it's a great opportunity, another platform for girls to get recruited, to learn more about their craft, but kind of go into why you wanted to partner up with us, and why you love travel softball so much.
Yeah. So West Coast Preps, just the reputation and the credibility that they've made for themselves over the last how long have you guys been around? 2 to 3 years?
4 years. So we started
4 years.
the pandemic as well.
Okay. Yeah, I've kind of seen a big uptick in kids around the Bay Area just talking, oh, West Coast Preps was featuring our game. West Coast Preps was this, was that. So they're the talk of the town. And I think this opportunity, when Greg approached me, I couldn't pass it up, because the reputation and the credibility of just what they offer to athletes online, featuring high school games. I think it's really exciting to get into the travel ball world. Um, Recruiting is a big thing. And I guarantee all of the exposure and the tweeting and the social media that West Coast Preps does has drastically helped multiple athletes already in their recruiting career. So I think it's really exciting for softball because every athlete, every softball athlete that wants to get recruited, they have their own social media recruiting page, right? So the exposure of West Coast Preps just highlighting these athletes within the program, I think could be really beneficial. And I think the connections that West Coast Preps has just around Northern California was a big deal for me. So that's kind of what drew me to West Coast Preps. I've always wanted to lead an organization, but the opportunity just hadn't lined up yet. My boyfriend leads his own 7-on-7 org. And he's always told me, you need to do it. You need to do it because you get you have the creative freedom to do what you want. You get to set your own schedule. You get to go to the tournaments you want to go to. So I think that's what's really made me excited about West Coast Preps, is allowing me to have the creative freedom to do what I think would go best for the girls. And it's just an exciting venture. I think West Coast Preps, especially starting at a 16U age, I think is perfect because they're just starting their recruiting journey. It's freshmen and sophomores in high school, so coaches can't talk to them yet. They can't talk to them till the September 1st of their junior year. So starting with them at 16U, a lot of them maybe being freshmen in high school, just really starting to get serious about softball. Getting out of that awkward stage of growing and hitting hormones and kind of becoming a woman, I think that's a perfect age to start with. And I think with my recruiting experience and what I've been through, and also with the addition of Steve Ortiz, who's coached over 30 years and has gotten over 50, 60 girls to college, big name players to Power Fives and mid majors. I think this program is kind of going to be in good hands. But it's exciting to think of the potential and what it could be going forward. There's a lot of competition in Northern California. It seems like teams are sprouting up here and there, here and there. And I kind of felt guilty because I was like, well, another team's sprouting up and and I'm leading it. But I think with the West Coast Preps name, it's kind of people have been drawn to it and people are excited about it. It's not just going to be another no-name team. They already have a reputation. So we've seen some traction already with some tryout signups. So I'm really excited for West Coast Preps.
Yeah, and the tryouts are August 10th and 11th, so just a couple weekends away. Kind of talk about what your goals are for the program and how you want to run the program for people that might be interested. How are you going to run kind of the day-to-day operations as the season goes on, heading into the high school year?
Yeah, so fall, starting with the 16U team, we're going to be doing primarily showcases. The big thing is you have to travel down to Southern California to go where the coaches are going. So at least 2 times to Southern California this fall. I know it's an expense for the parents because that's additional travel fees. When I played travel ball with 18U, my coach called the girls that their parents couldn't go with them, the orphans. So that's an idea that I have, is if your family can't afford it, but you still need your player to go, the coach can take them. It'll be at a reduced cost. You split the hotel room. I think that would be great. I mean, there's streaming platforms now where the parents can stay at home and watch the game. So if it's affordable that way, that's an idea I have. I'm going to be as transparent as possible. I think communication is huge. I think having a practice schedule set, having the tournament schedule set from the very beginning, the parents knowing what the fees are right away, and knowing what the fees are going towards, I think is very important, and having transparency, because I've noticed a lot of teams throughout the nation and teams in Northern California in general, parents pay fees and they don't know what they're going towards. So being transparent about coaching costs, travel expenses, uniforms, field rentals, subscriptions, all of that, I think is what I'm going to pride myself on. I like to think I'm a good communicator. So this will be a challenge because it's going to be a whole organization, but that's going to be one thing that I'm going to really focus on is the communication aspect. My vision is 16U this fall, and then hopefully a 12U, maybe a 14U next spring, and then build this 16U up to continue through 18U. So not really having an 18U yet, just get them in their recruiting journey, get them started, and then finish them through high school. So that'll be about a 2-year process. But starting the age groups with a 12U and a 14U, that'll allow the program to get turnover up to each level, and keep the talent within the org. And so hopefully with quality coaching, I've been networking and reaching out to some former players and some coaches that I've played for. Through some quality coaching, we can create a really successful org. So yeah, so after the fall, hopefully 12U, hopefully 14U, we got to get the numbers for those. Transparency with fees, a lot of communication, and then also just helping with the recruiting. Maybe bringing in a couple former of my old teammates who have been through the same process. Every girl's recruiting journey is different. It's unique. So I think the more that the girls hear how every journey is different, right? And going to Division 3s, going to D2s, D1s, NAIA, and knowing that there's a school for everyone. Knowing that there's a school for everyone, I think, is a mindset that I want to instill in the players. It's not all about D1. I mean, when I was playing, it was D1 or bust. Like, I wasn't going to do anything else. But there is life after softball. There is an education that's important. The top 1% of softball players play at the Olympics and play professionally and play overseas. So setting themselves up for success after college, and hopefully getting them to college to play softball and continue their passion. That is my goal. That's my vision, is to mentor them, to instill that passion, to really work on the fundamentals of the game and increase their IQ. Because 16U, that's a big shift mentally, where you have the skills, now you have to have the mental skills. How do you have an approach at the plate? What do you say in between pitches? Who do you communicate to? So that's a big thing that I'm also going to focus on, is increasing that mental IQ of the game and their knowledge, other than just their skills. Their skills are always going to be there, but also how are they going to get better other than just their physical abilities.
So I love what we're doing together. You've been the perfect person. You've been working really hard, and I really appreciate you joining the West Coast Preps crew and starting the travel softball team. I think that's just about everything that we're going to go over today. Obviously, you can find more information on the westcoastpreps.com site about the tryouts on August 10th and 11th. And you can always reach out to us via Instagram as well. I will link everything in the description as well for her Instagram, as well as all of our West Coast Preps links. Awesome. Thank you, Megan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.